Greetings, diners, and welcome to the new diner set, which is a work in progress. I've been working on getting my place more organized and have my preps all ready and basically surrounding me because I don't get around too well anymore. So if I have to exit in a hurry, then I need all my stuff ready to go, and it still isn't a very big hurry. I don't think I can even move my essentials out of the apartment and into one of my vehicles in under a half an hour. A normal person could do it in about 5 minutes. But at any rate, I'm going to try to spruce up the set even more. But you see a lot of the essentials, or things that I consider essential, floating around here. Some of it is not obvious because it's where the camera is placed right now. So you can't see it. I'll shoot other angles on other days. But I've used a lot of shelving units from Walmart that are, assemble them yourself and they go together, come apart quite rapidly. So if you need to move and you have more than a half an hour, you can not just take your basic preps, but you can start to take your furniture and stuff with it. The shelving units I'm using are industrial type, and they also serve a second purpose for me. They provide me handholds that I use around the apartment when I have to hobble around to do stuff. And that is very handy for me. And I only realized that in the last month since I've been making these changes to the place, how good it is to have handholds around, especially when you fall down. At any rate, I haven't been writing very much lately, and I hope to get back to doing some more writing, but health problems have been in the way, and then other projects that are important to me to get done, and plus on top of everything else, the Doomsphere has been pretty boring lately. I mean, unless you follow the nuclear war stuff with the Koreans and that sort of stuff, which isn't a primary interest of mine. I feel like nuclear war and the geopolitical problems that we have, and even our internal political problems, are a thing that I can do nothing about. They're not something I can prep for. They're not something I have any political influence. I don't have financial influence to make any dent in these proceedings and the way they're going. So what's going to happen there is what's going to happen. And nobody can predict the exact date of the next nuclear war, when the first bomb is dropped and by who and where. So I don't worry about it. I let other people worry about that stuff. My main concerns are on the economic front. Those are things I can do some preparation for. Not a lot, but some, more than a lot of people do. I can have preps, which basically in most respects amounts to having plenty of food around to take you through short-lived disasters and other things like bank holidays and whatnot, gas shortages or failure of just-in-time delivery. Those things as time progresses, I think will become the more important problem than a total and sudden collapse of all industrial civilization products. So if you can work your way through that period, then you can stand a better chance of survival. At the very least, you'll survive longer than the person with nothing and who is living in a big shitty with lots of what we call zombies floating around, people with no preps whatsoever who will want to steal yours. And that may happen around here, but people around where I live in Alaska tend to have fairly large supplies of their own, even if they're not doomers. A few people have as many as I do, but most people have, a month or two worth of stuff to carry them through in case, bad snows, power outages, stuff like that we get here. Also, the population isn't large. In my neighborhood, there's only around 6,000 people. So the likelihood of being inundated in my spot by, home invaders, it can happen. There's going to be people who are not prepared, and after 3 or 4 days of no food and no water coming out of the taps and stuff like that, they will be pretty perturbed. So I can't discount the possibility of zombies where I am, but I feel like the likelihood is fairly small, at least for the first month or 2 months or something like that. Otherwise, besides the food, I have water alternatives. There's a stream that runs by where I live, not more than a quarter mile from my front door. I can get there on my e-wheels, my electric scooters that I own, that take the place of my legs now. And I have power, which you see behind me, galore. I've got batteries of various sorts, rechargeable devices and lights of various sorts. I've got power for my computers. I can even run my refrigerator if I had to for, when it gets over a week, I would have to flip on my Jenny, which sits outside on the porch, and I run a power cable into the digs so that I can plug in big devices that are usurpers of a lot of power, or a reasonable amount of power anyway. My refrigerator is fairly economical in terms of its power usage, and in an emergency situation I wouldn't be opening it very much, and I mostly keep the ambient temperature in the apartment fairly cool. The hardest thing in the wintertime is the ambient heat, because if it goes down to minus 20 outside and you don't have heat coming up from the floor, then your apartment gets mighty fucking cold mighty fast. So I have a few means of not really heating up the whole apartment, but you see my small space around here, I can insulate it and use small heating devices that run on mostly kerosene. So keep this area warm. I have DC fired electric warmers and blankets. I have sleeping bags and so forth for personal insulation put up over my legs. Of course, since I live in Alaska and I used to be an outdoorsman before I became a cripple, I have all the clothing to weather outdoor temperatures well down in the negative 30s Fahrenheit for a considerable period of time with even no other sources of heat. So the main things about that is insulation, personal insulation, a small space that is insulated to heat, and heating devices that are appropriate to that, so that you're not overburning something like Caro indoors, because then you have carbon monoxide problems. And same thing with running a Jenny indoors. You don't want to do that. I have a carbon monoxide detector for if I do burn indoors for any reason. And of course, this type of heating is not acceptable by the fire department. But I don't use it. It's an emergency preparation. And if my apartment is freezing, I'm not going to worry about what the fire department would say if they broke down my door and said, wow, you got a can of Sterno burning. We're giving you a $5,000 fine for that. Whatever. I'll worry about the $5,000 fine later. For right now, I need to stay unfrozen. Anyway, that's the introductory video for today on the new Doomstead Diner video series. And I'll try to be back as often as I can, as my health allows. And that's all to do this time. Until next time, here on the Doomstead Diner. Later, folks.